is it there in Liberia?
The time check present is about 9 minutes down 11 p.m.
Oh, 11 p.m. Okay. Well, all right, let's get started. As I've been discussing with you and your co-host from 2 weeks ago, we were discussing Liberia and how they have been a territory of the United States of America from the time of 1822 when the colony was established there.
Okay.
Since then, many things have been transpiring. You have had many political uprisings. Is that right? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. As you know, about 14 African countries have a colonial pact with France to pay about 85% of their foreign reserve into France's central bank. And not just France, but you have your countries dealing with America, as well as Britain has a portion. Everyone is pulling on Africa, primarily those along the west coast. And as I've been saying, those along the west coast of Africa are Israelites, according to the Holy Bible, regardless of what new name you have now. Okay? I'd like to open up with Luke chapter 21. Okay? Luke 21 and verse 24.
Yeah.
All right. I'll read it. This is what Christ said. It says, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword. The they here in this verse are the Israelites. This is during the year of 70 AD when Christ was prophesying what would happen in 70 AD. So I'll read it again. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, meaning the Israelites would fall when Rome came against them in the year 70 AD, and shall be led away captive into all nations. A remnant of them will be led away captive as slaves. Then it says, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles. So it's letting you know that the real Gentiles would live in Jerusalem until the times of the Gentiles come in. So now, I'd like to read above it to show you that there were some who did not get captured and sent away into slavery. I want to start up in the same chapter, Luke 21 and verse 20, okay? It says, and when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. The word desolation means destruction. Know that the destruction is near. Verse 21, then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains. This is how a large remnant of our people fled into Africa. Many Caucasian scholars refuse to teach. Therefore, many of our people are unaware through these centuries who they are today. I'm going to read that again, verse 21. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains. What mountains did we flee to? We fled to the mountains of Africa. That's where we fled. And let them which are in the midst of it depart out. Meaning, those that are in the midst of Israel, depart out. Run for your life. And let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. Notice that part there. And let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. Because you had many Israelites who had already been sojourning in other countries. So Christ was warning them, don't come back to the land of Israel. Don't come back. Verse 22 now. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. So now what was Christ talking about when he said, for these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled? He was making reference to Deuteronomy chapter 28. These are where the curses are listed. Watch this. Deuteronomy 28. And let's start at verse 32. I'll start at 31. It says, thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof. Thine ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face, and shall not be restored to thee. Thy sheep shall be given unto thine enemies, and thou shalt have none to rescue them. So this is making reference to colonialism. Watch this. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fare with longing for them all the day long. And there shall be no might in thine hand. When it says there shall be no might in your hand, meaning no economic might, no military might. Verse 33, it says, the fruit of your land and all thy labor shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, because the white man came and ate up all the fruits and resources of our land. And thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always, so that thou shalt be mad for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. So now, watch verse 35. The Lord shall smite thee in the knees and in the legs with his sore botch, that cannot be healed from the sole of thy foot unto the top of thy head. This is making reference to plagues, diseases such as Ebola, things of that nature. Okay? Watch this, verse 36. The Lord shall bring thee and thy king, which thou shalt, the Lord shall bring thee and thy king, which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known. And there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone. So those of us that sojourned in Africa from the time of 70 AD on, in the year 1600, around then is when the transatlantic slave trade commenced. Many of us and our kings that we had over us in the various tribes throughout Africa went on cargo slave ships. Watch this, I'll get to that prove that. Verse 68 of the same chapter, Deuteronomy 28, verse 68. It says, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again. The word Egypt means house of bondage. Listen good to what I'm saying. The word Egypt means house of bondage. So I'll read it again. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. Do you see that right there, with ships?
Yes.
Proving that we went into slavery on ships. Only our people, only our race. By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. Meaning we would not see our homeland no more again. And there, what you got off those slave ships, ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen. And no man shall buy you, meaning no man shall rescue you. No man shall redeem you. So these are the prophetic messages that were given to our ancestors, and they occurred from the time of 70 AD, 1600 AD, to the 1800s AD. And as I stated historically, in 1822, the white man took shiploads of us back from America and took us and colonized us in Liberia today. Okay? That is the history. Okay? So I want all your listeners to be well aware of their history. Okay? Now, why don't we realize who we are? Okay, watch this. Let's go to Deuteronomy 32 and verse 17. Okay, actually verse 26. Deuteronomy 32, verse 26. Let me know when you got it.
Okay, I'm there.
Okay, it reads, I said I would scatter them into corners. I would make the remembrance of them to cease from among men. We've been scattered into corners, meaning the four corners of the earth. And God prophesied he would make our remembrance to end from among men. Meaning nobody would remember that we are the Israelites. This is why you and I, our people, don't realize they are the chosen people of God, the Israelites. This is why we call ourselves Liberians today, African Americans, Ghanaians, Libyans, Congolese, South Africans, things of that nature. We have these new labels today. Okay, you with me? You with me?
Yes, I'm with you.
So these are prophetic messages to wake us up in the last days. Now, let's go to the book of Isaiah, chapter 1 and verse 3. Okay, Isaiah, chapter 1 and verse 3. To continue on the point that we have forgotten who we are. Isaiah chapter 1 and verse 3, it reads, "The ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Israel doth not know. My people doth not consider." What does that mean? Let's read it again. The ox knoweth his owner. Meaning, an ox is a very dumb animal, but it knows who owns him. Then it says, and the ass his master's crib. The ass is another dumb animal, but it knows its master's crib. But watch this. But Israel doth not know. My people doth not consider. So God is saying that we are dumber than the ox and the ass. Because those two dumb animals, the ox and the ass, knows who they are. But we don't realize who we are, where we are from, who owns us. You understand?
Yeah.
So the Lord is showing us now watch this. Let's go. Where do we want to go from there? Watch. Let me see. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 4. Jeremiah
17 verse 4.
Yes. Let me know when you got it.
Okay, almost there. Okay, I'm there.
Okay. It reads, Jeremiah 17 verse 4, "And thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee." This is more proof that the real Israelites would discontinue from their heritage. They would not know that they are the Israelites. These are the prophecies we've been reading. We are the people of the book who have forgotten who they are. Let's read it again. "And thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee. And I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not. For ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever." So these are the prophecies proving that the real Israelites would discontinue from their heritage, meaning they would no longer be keeping God's holidays. They would no longer be keeping God's commandments. They would no longer remember that they are the Israelites. They would call themselves by different names like Liberians, the Congolese, South Africans, African Americans, Haitians, Brazilians, Jamaicans, Caribbeans. You understand? Guyanese, Bermudians, St. Martins. These are the labels we go by now. For example, I want you all to understand. Now, let's get some more. Let's go to the book of Hosea, chapter 3, verse 4 and 5. Hosea. Actually, I'd rather go to first Hosea chapter 1. I'd rather go there first, verse 10. You there?
Yeah.
Hosea chapter 1 and verse 10 reads, "Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, Ye are not my people, there it shall be said unto them, Ye are the sons of the living God." Let's read that one more time, please. Verse 10. "Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered." So God is telling you and me that our race, the Israelites, we outnumber everybody on the planet combined. Watch this. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people. What does that mean? It means your identity would be changed from Judah to Liberians, from Benjamin to West Indian, from Levi to Haitians, from Ephraim to Puerto Ricans, from Asher to Brazilians. So what the nations did when they conquered us was change our identities. That's what it means when it says, and it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, watch this, there it shall be said unto them, ye are the sons of the living God. This is what you're hearing now. You are the sons of the living God. You are not Liberians. You are not South Africans. You are not Ghanaians. You are not African Americans. You are not Haitians. You are not Jamaicans. You are not Bermudians. You are the Israelites, the sons of the living God. Watch verse 11. The prophecy continues. Then shall the children of Judah and the children of Israel be gathered together and appoint themselves one head. The one head means one king. That's Christ. And they shall come up out of the land, for great shall be the day of Jezreel, meaning the seed of Israel. So the prophecy is that we should come together and be gathered out of the lands where we've been scattered. This is the prophecy. You with me so far?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Now, let's go to Psalms 83. The book of Psalms, chapter 83. Because you will have to ask yourself, all your listeners will have to ask yourself, you've been calling yourselves Liberians since the 1800s, 1822 on till today. What were you before the 1800s? What was I before they all called me African American? We are the Israelites. We are the Israelites. How do they keep us under these false nationalities? In Psalms 83, we're going to read about it. Psalms 83, and let's start at verse 1, and we're going to read down. Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult. Let's pause there. You see the word enemies. God is letting you and I know he has enemies. We have enemies. Let's read it again, verse 2. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult. The word tumult, T-U-M-U-L-T, means a riotous gathering of nations. That's what tumult means. A riotous gathering of nations. In this context, enemies of the nations. Okay? Watch this. Let's read it again, verse 2. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. When it says they that hate you have lifted up the head, meaning they have become the leaders of the world. They have become the rulers in the world, these nations that hate us, that hate God. That's what it means when it says they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They've lifted up their head in rulership. You with me so far?
Yeah.
You with me?
Yes.
Verse 3 now. Verse 3. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people. Look what the enemies of God have done in verse 3. They, which are the enemies, the nations, they have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. What does it mean, thy hidden ones? The truth of who we are has been hidden in the earth. We don't know who we are. So let's read verse 3 one more time. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people. How have the nations, let's examine that part. How has the nations taken crafty counsel against us? In slavery, my brother, they renamed us. During colonialism, they renamed us. listen good. They beat it into us, the names we now call ourselves, whether it be African Americans, Jamaicans, Brazilians, Haitians, Guyanese, South Africans. They beat those names into us, okay, colonialized us, enslaved us. Then watch this. This is what they did. More crafty counsel. I want to explain the crafty counsel in detail. Then they divided us up into false religions. Some of you in Liberia may call yourselves Christian Roman Catholics. Some of you in Liberia may call yourselves Christian Baptists. Some of you in Liberia may call yourselves Anglicans. Some of you in Liberia have all these different Christian religions, which are man-made. Then watch this. Here's more crafty counsel. Then they gave us political identities. Some of you in Liberia may call yourselves Democratic. Some of you in Liberia may call yourselves liberals. Some of you in Liberia may call yourselves Republicans. Some of you in Liberia may call yourselves conservatives. So forth and so on. These different political groups they have made up for us. These different religious groups they made up. These different national groups they made up for us. This is called divide them and conquer them. So let's read verse 4 one more time. They have said, come and let us cut them off. No, that verse 3, I'm sorry, verse 3 again. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden one. Verse 4, here we go. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. I have to read verse 4 again for your listeners. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. This is why our peoples don't remember we are Israel. We call ourselves Liberians. We call ourselves African Americans. And also, some of you are Muslims in Liberia. How can I forget that? Some of you are Shiite. Okay? Some of you fall under those various false religions. So the nations took crafty counsel against us. I want you to listen good. They want to ensure that we no longer remember that we are Israel. Why? Because as Israel, God will stand beside us. God will stand for us. God will fight for us. But God will not fight for us if we are divided. As Liberians, he will not fight for us as Catholics. He will not fight for us as Muslims. He will not fight for us as Democrats. He will not fight for us as Republicans. We must come together as Israel, the lost sheep of the house of Israel. So let's read verse 4 one more time. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. Listen good to this again. For they, meaning the enemies of God, the nations, the enemies of God, have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. Meaning all these nations came together against God's people. Now he's going to name the enemies of God. Listen very good. Verse 6. The tabernacles of Edom. So the first enemy of God is the nation of Edom. That is the so-called white race, the Caucasians. That includes America, Britain, France, Germany, Russia, Belgium, Brussels, Italy, Greece, Rome. All the European nations are Edom. The word Edom means red. Why is it called them the tabernacles of Edom, meaning red? Because the blood shows through their skin. When they get in the sun or get any hard emotion, they turn red. From the top of their head to the soles of their feet, they are a red race. They forced us to call them white. But look at them closely. They are not really white at all. Their teeth might be white. Their eyes might be white. But their skin is different shades of red. They range from a light red to a dark red. Watch this. I'm going to come back. No, let me finish reading because I don't want to lose my point. The tabernacles of Edom is the first enemy of God, that race. Then watch the second. And the Ishmaelites. Ishmaelites are the Arabs. I'm going to say it again. The Ishmaelites are the Arabs. This is why some of our people in America are very foolish, just like some of our people in Liberia are very foolish, as well as Nigeria and Ghana. We have accepted the religion of the Arabs, calling ourselves Muslims. I want all your listeners to look up the sub-Sahara slave trade. It preceded the transatlantic slave trade. It preceded it. The sub-Sahara slave trade involved the Arabs conquering us, enslaving us, and forcing us into Islam, forcing us to submit to their false god, Allah. They forced us to worship the black stone called the Kaaba stone in Mecca. Mecca was the largest slave port. I'm going to say it again. Mecca was the largest slave port for the Israelites. They enslaved us. They castrated us. They forced us to worship their God. Do your research. Look it up. The sub-Sahara slave trade involved the children of Ishmael, the ones you call Arabs today. And guess what, my brothers and sisters? There are many parts of Africa where our people are still enslaved by the Arabs. And they have conquered many of us and forced us to unite with them and enslave our own people. This is what the atrocity is. But we are going to come out of that foolishness. So let me read it again. Verse 6. God is going to list his enemies. The tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites of Moab. Moab. Who is Moab? The Chinese. The Chinese. The Mongolians. Those of Mongolia. This is why the Chinese, they always try to get a foot throughout Africa. Okay? Throughout America. Throughout Haiti. Throughout Brazil. Throughout Jamaica. Throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Wherever the sons of Israel are, the Moab, the Chinese, try to get their foot in to reap our natural resources. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Then it names the Hagarenes. The Hagarenes are the Egyptians. Okay? The Egyptians you have today. Gebal and Ammon. Look at Ammon there. Ammon are the Japanese. The Japanese. And Amalek. Amalek is the chief family of the Caucasians. The ones you call in Israel Jewish, that's Amalek. That's a family of Edom. Okay? The Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre. The Philistines are the ones you call today, for example, Watusis. Okay? Assur also is joined with them. Those are the Assyrians, the ones you call Syria today. They have holpen the children of Lot, Selah. It says, do unto them as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera, as to Jabin at the brook of Kison. This is when God killed his enemies. So David prophetically is asking God in prayer to destroy the enemies of God, to destroy the enemies of the true Israelites. This is what King David is praying for. This is what Asaph has sung a song about. Asaph was the chief musician in the court of King David. He orchestrated this song here, which is prophetic, asking God to kill the enemies of the Israelites. We are the Israelites. We are the Israelites. Now, you might be saying right now, it's not right to pray for the destruction of your enemies. This is what Christianity and Islam has taught us as they enslaved us. When they beat us, enslaved us, colonized us, they taught us, always pray for us. Never pray for our end. They beat that into us. So we are very fearful today. But let's go to the book of Luke, chapter 18. Luke, chapter 18. Let me know when you got it.
All right.
I know your listeners may be very fearful now, but don't fear. Do not fear what I'm saying to you. God is on our... Luke 18 in verse 1. And he spake a parable unto them to this end, that men ought always to pray and not to faint. But pray about what? Christ is going to give us an example of what we must pray for. Watch this, verse 2. Saying, there was in a city a judge, which feared not God, neither regarded man. Now write this down, all your listeners. This is a parable, and the word parable means an illustrated story. This is a story about God Almighty. God Almighty is the judge. When it says there was in a city a judge which feared not God, neither regarded man, this is a representation of the Almighty. Verse 3. And there was a widow in that city, and she came unto him. The widow represents the Israelites. Why are we the widow in this parable? Because God cut us off from being married to him. When you read the book of Jeremiah chapter 3, you don't have to get it. I will read it to you.
All right.
This is what it says. I'll just get it very quickly for your listeners. Jeremiah chapter 3 and verse, let me see what verse it is. Verse 14, it says, turn, O backsliding children, saith the Lord, for I am married unto you. So the Lord was always married unto us. But when we sinned, he cut us off. This is why the parable in Luke 18 calls us the widow. Let's go back to Luke 18 and verse 3 again. And there was a widow in that city, and she came unto the judge, which represents God, saying, avenge me of mine adversary. The word adversary means enemy. So now, verse 4, and he would not for a while. But afterward, he said within himself, though I fear not God, nor regard man, yet because this widow troubleth me, I will avenge her, lest by her continual coming she weary me. Here it comes, verse 6. And the Lord said, hear what the unjust judge saith. Verse 7. And shall not God avenge his own elect, which cry day and night unto him? Though he bear long with them, I tell you that he will avenge them speedily. Nevertheless, when the Son of Man comes, shall he find faith on the earth? So what does this mean? It means that you and I are commanded to pray for vengeance, but Christ asked the question, when he comes, will there be faith on the earth? Why did he ask that question? Because you and I were beaten so badly, we've been taught it's evil to pray for vengeance against our enemies. That's what we've been taught. When Christ clearly teaches us here to pray for vengeance. Pray for vengeance. Pray for vengeance against the nations who have destroyed us, enslaved us, colonialized us. But we've been taught that that's a bad thing. But here in Luke 18, we've been taught that it's true. These are the things we must do. These are what we've been commanded to do. So now, you understand that? You understand that?
Yes, yes.
Now, let's go to Psalms 137. Now, first, before we go there, let's go to Matthew 5. I got to go to Matthew 5. Because I know what Christianity and Islam has taught us. Matthew 5, verse 44. Watch this. Matthew 5:44. I'll start at 43. It says, "Ye have heard that it has been said, Thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you." So what does that mean? You might think that Christ is contradicting himself. He is not contradicting himself. Who is the enemy here that we must pray for and bless? Opposed to Luke 18, where Christ said, pray for vengeance against your enemies. Here we go. Hold your finger there in Matthew 5. Let's go to Exodus chapter 23. I'm going to explain with the words of Moses who the Lord is talking about. In Exodus 23, when we were going into the promised land, this is what Moses taught us one for another. Exodus 23 and verse 4. We'll read verse 4 and 5. "If thou meet thine enemy's ox or his ass going astray, thou shalt surely bring it back to him again. If thou see the ass of him that hateth thee lying under his burden, and wouldest forbear to help him, thou shalt surely help him." So now Moses is saying, help your enemy, help him that hates you. But who is our enemy here in verse 4? Who is our enemy in verse 5? Your fellow Israelite who you have a problem with. Your enemy here in Exodus 23, verse 4 and 5, is your fellow brother and sister. Now watch this. I'm going to prove it with verse 23. Verse 23 of the same chapter, Exodus 23. "For mine angel shall go before thee, and bring thee in unto the Amorites, and the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Canaanites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, and I will cut them off," meaning kill them. God is saying that the angel of the Lord will lead us into the promised land, and he will kill the Hamitic nations that are there. This is what the Lord is prophesying. So these nations you read about in verse 23, God says he's going to kill them. This is different than verse 4 and 5, where Moses tells us, help our enemy. Help those that hate you, meaning your fellow Israelite brother and sister. So when we go back to Matthew 5, brother, listen good. Back to Matthew 5. Remember, Jesus Christ is teaching the Israelites how to deal one with another. This is what you don't realize. This is what all your Christians and Muslims don't realize, that in the book of Matthew, Jesus Christ is teaching Israel how to get along with Israel. Verse 44 again. "But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and would persecute you, that you may be the children of your Father which is in heaven. For he maketh the sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth rain on the just and the unjust. For if you love them which love you, what reward have ye? Do not even the publicans the same? The publicans were Israelite tax collectors. So Christ is teaching Israel how to love Israel. This is what Christian whites have perverted. They've perverted this and taught us, love your slave master. Love those that raped your mothers. Love those that killed your fathers, raped your children. But that's not what Christ is talking about. Let's get more proof. Let's go to the book of Revelation, chapter 13, verse 9 and 10. Let me know when you get it. it's very important that you read along, your listeners read along as well, so that they can read the word for themselves. It's Revelation chapter 13 and verse 10. I'll start at verse 9. If any man have an ear, let him hear.
Yes.
He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. Wait a minute. Let's read that again. Okay, verse 10, I'll read it again. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. Who's speaking here? Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is teaching us, teaching you and me, that whoever leads us into slavery, that's what captivity means, shall go into slavery. Then he says, he that kills with the sword must be killed with the sword. So when the white man enslaved us and killed us, the Arabs enslaved us and killed us, Christ said what they did to us shall happen to them in the coming kingdom. You with me?
Yes, yes.
Now, let's get the law on slavery in Exodus. Exodus. In the Old Testament, Exodus chapter 21 and verse 16. I want all your listeners to understand that what I am showing you in the Bible is not hate speech and it's not racism. It's truth. It is Bible. I want your listeners to understand it. Make a distinction between emotionalism, okay, racism, hatred. It is biblical truth.
Shalom, Israel. I'm Elder Nathaniel of Israel United in Christ. YouTube likes to shut our channels down, as some of you have noticed, ever so often. Subscribing to join IUIC will assure you will always stay connected to our YouTube accounts. We want to do our best to make sure this truth gets out. Please click and join our subscriber YouTube channel called Join IUIC to stay linked to all of our videos. So again, please make sure you subscribe to this Join IUIC channel to get your latest updates on all our YouTube channels. Shalom.